Hello and welcome to this week's YouTube vlog from Barton Burner Services, and I hope we are all okay. Thanks for everyone that has commented last week. We love a comment and it was absolutely brilliant, some of the comments we did get. And as always, thanks to everyone that subscribed. Without you, as I've said loads before, we basically wouldn't do it. So moving on to this week's YouTube vlog, upon request this time, we've been asked to do filters, all about filters. Some people can't take them to pieces, some people find they can't turn their tanks off, etc, etc. So we're going to go through them with you, that's the idea. So yeah, I hope you're going to enjoy it. It's a bit of an oversight. We've got as many filters together as we could possibly find in our vans, in the stores, stuff like that, but we haven't got them all. So we'll see how it goes. So anyway, I'm going to stop going on and let's get on with this week's YouTube vlog. Okay, here we go. We are in our unit and here we have, Ryan, zoom in, we have an array of filters. Have we got them, Ryan? And here we go. All the different common ones that we see all the time. And also we've got the Royale Unit here, which is in an old oil tank, which I'm going to go through with you, which is a load of rubbish to be honest. And we've got this, the good old Tankmaster. This is the one where loads of people are having trouble with, and clearly we're going to go through it with you because they're having a nightmare. Okay, so we're going to move here first. We're going to look at the various filters. So we have here, obviously you've got your Tankmaster, which I'll go through with you in a minute. Okay, this is the newer version that just takes the normal nylon filter, and this is the older version, which was blooming out 30 years ago, that obviously takes the bigger filter, which is this one, the 4009. Okay, and then we've got obviously your standard tank filter you see today. There's just a silver version here, and you can also get them in green, black, whatever you want to do. And this is the normal isolation valve that screws straight in. These are brilliant. It used to be before these a slightly different version, which was here. They were the original types there. The trouble with them is they just had a fitting that went into the tank, which is there. And then if that ever failed, you couldn't isolate it at the tank, which was an absolute nightmare. And also the levers on the top, sometimes you turn them and they just end up leaking. So what you have to do, or the best thing on them, is to spray a bit of WD on them first, leave them 5 minutes and they usually go okay. All right, so the later version, obviously they brought these taps out here, which are much, much better. So this is one version here, which would take a normal nylon filter, which is this one here, which goes in there like so. And also they do a spin-on version, which is this one here. Okay, now this has got the additional tap on this, but this is how this comes, and we've never used this one to be honest. This would just be a normal style one with that nut like that that sits on there. Okay, and these are absolutely great. As you can see, they're just a spin-on cartridge, about 20 quid these, but they're just an absolute game changer. Okay, so I'm just going to spin that back on there. The other unique thing about these particular ones here, if you actually do oil tanks, you can do various things, like for example, you can just undo this here like so. Okay, you can put as many, like so, you can put as many elbows as you like on, so you can go this way like here, like so. You can have a T-piece that goes this way, and then elbows that go here, and then you can put all your accessories on. So they can go as many different ways as you want, so they're a really clever idea. And obviously all these parts you buy individually, so they're great. We have the HRM filter. This is quite a common filter here. We come across these quite often. This has got the normal HRM style filter here, but we stock loads of these. These are really common. Okay, and the thing about filters is make sure that when you put these in here, you're doing your seals as well, otherwise you get a leak. There is another version of this, and the other version has got a gauze filter in. If you've got the one with the gauze filter, do not put this in as a replacement. Even though you think, oh look, they look the same, they're amazing. Seal, absolutely fine, they don't, because they're a little bit longer, so they would sit in there like that. When you do it up, this squashed reduces the oil flow. So if you've got a gauze type one, do not do it. Okay, you can't do it. And some of you have probably seen that there's a plastic version of them around. If you see the plastic versions, please just get rid of them. Even if you take the plastic filter bowl off and you can replace it with a metal one. Because you do them up in the summertime, they're absolutely great. And then in the winter, you get the frost, they shrink and they pee oil out absolutely everywhere. Okay, so that's it. We're going to move on to wall-mounted filters now, which you've got this. Again, this is the Ultra Spin-On, which obviously, As you can see, we just go there, take it off, which I've done already, and then you can fix it to the wall. You can also spin that round, and that's where you vent it there. And if you undo the 4 Allen keys there, you can spin it because they're directional. I don't know if you can see that line, but it goes left at the minute. But obviously you can spin it to go right. So they're really handy. Okay, and if you want them, you can have your sticker on, but that's what they are there. So I'll just move that to one side. So moving on. Lots of people have seen these. These are the 489 filter. You can get them in green, which are the bio. There were some in silver, and there's a hell of a lot around in red. That's the short bowl. That is the long bowl. You can get it in quarter, you can get it in 3/8. Okay, the downside of these, which is quite a big problem if I just get my pen, is the flow on this actually goes this way. Okay, it's not interchangeable, so you see a lot of people that put them on back to front and then they don't end up fixing that to the wall, they just sort of hang out. So the idea is if your flow of oil is going totally the wrong direction, you might have to go around, up, in for it to come through. They weren't a great idea. However, EOGB have just redesigned them, so now they're on their own unique bracket, which means that you can turn them the other way. So well done, EOGB, for listening. And the filters that go in there is boom, the 493, and boom, the 489. Okay, so the most common filters that we keep in our vans are the 489, the 493, that's the 414. We see them, semi-commercial properties, stuff like that. Not very often, we do about 2 of them a year. Then clearly you've got your 4009, which goes in your old style Tankmaster unit. We've got the spin-ons. Obviously we have the nylons that go in lots and lots of things, as you know. And then you've got this little punk here. This is called the Perfection Part Filter. Now we can't find a second-hand one anywhere. We've looked on all our vans and I haven't seen one in the last week when I've been looking. But these are quite uncommon, and it's like a thin, long silver filter unit that sits in line. And the thing about these is these always end up leaking if you don't change that seal as well. They're an absolute nightmare. So watch out if you get a Perfection Part 1 and you have one of these. Okay, the other filter that's not on here, which obviously we've talked about in previous videos anyway, is one for your oil pumps. Obviously you've got the RDB, you've got the Danfoss one as well. The most common one is the Danfoss one that you can just pop in. Okay, but we're not going to go into them. So enough about all of these. Oh, actually, speaking of which, these are good. The SOS, Ultra Compact SOS Tube. Okay, these are brilliant. The reason they're brilliant is because in one end, obviously you have the filters, you get 10 at a time. And then if we plonk that on, the other end, all your seals, all your bolts, all your nuts, all your washers you need. Okay, I'm not going to go into how you put a seal in a filter, because you should all know how to do that, to be honest with you. But the most important thing to tell you is that when you are putting a fresh seal in a filter, you must make sure that you obviously turn the oil off. When you've got the filter bowl off and the old filter out the way, clean everything so it's dry. Put a new seal in dry. If you touch it with kerosene, it will expand slightly or it becomes slippery and you won't get it in. It will just keep falling out time after time after time. And all you're going to do is get angry, you're going to chuck it across the garden in temper, and you're going to go back, have another go of another one, and the same's going to happen. Okay, so you must clean it. It must be immaculate and dry. And to be honest with you, the way I do it is I get the tissue, I dry all the filter first, you know, with my gloves on, etc. And then I tend to take my gloves off because it's all dry. I put the new filter in place, screw it on, and when it's done up, then put my gloves on and carry on with the rest of my job. And that's how I do it. And also remember, folks, the most important thing as well is always put bowls underneath filters where you can, because obviously you're dropping the oil into the ground. So what we're going to do now is we're going to move on to the Tankmaster unit, which is the most common thing we've been asked about. Right, the good old Tankmaster unit. The most common problem we have is that you can't turn them off. So people panic, they undo the filter, this is all seized up, it all starts leaking, oh my God, what am I going to do? We also go through a lot of places where this hasn't been touched, there's a bit of pipe and some idiots put an isolation valve in there. After the isolation valve, they put a filter in there. Totally pointless exercise. One, sort this out first, and number two, what's the point in having a filter there when you've got one in there, and if that's blocked, this ain't going to work anyway, so it's pointless. Okay, so the first thing you need to know is about these wheels. These wheels are quite unique, a bit pointless, but unique. So actually, you've got the wheel here and you've got the centre part. What holds that to that is a bit of solder. And what's supposed to happen is, if there's a fire around the tank, That is supposed to melt the solder, and then it's supposed to pop off, and it's supposed to turn the tank off. But, well, your guess is as good as mine. I think it's a design from many years ago, and whether it works or not, who knows. Okay, so what we're going to do now is this wheel, it's not seized on, but we're going to pretend it's seized on. The first thing you need to understand is that this is a backwards thread. So when you're undoing it, you're actually doing it up, okay? And it comes off like this, like so. Normally there's a little C-clip in the front. I'm going to pull it off, okay? That's how they normally are. So don't turn it the wrong way and think it's going tight, because you have basically got it wrong. It might not be seized. So we're going to plonk that back on. As you can see, I'm now doing it up. And we're going to make it tight. Okay, we're going to pretend that's seized. What we're going to do, we're going to put our grips on here. The first thing we're going to do, we're going to try and put our grips on here, and we're going to start going, and we're going to turn it. And you're going to think you're getting somewhere. But what's actually happening is you're turning this bit on the bit in the middle because it's got stuck. So the first thing we're going to do, we get some WD. We're going to stick it on. Obviously, we're trying to prove a point here, but as you know, it's not seized anyway. Okay, we're going to leave that a few minutes. Yep, a few minutes on. We're going to come around here, one minute swap, and we're going to get a spanner behind there, and we're going to do this. Nice and gentle, pop. Okay, that has now got the outer bit off. Okay, once we've done that, we'll move that. You are left clearly with the inner part there. And this is where people are like, oh, it still doesn't turn off, blah, blah, blah. If there's a circlip on there, which all of them have not got, because people take them off, then clearly remove it. Get your grips on this bit, not here, but this bit, and go like that. And then, he says, he'll do it a bit more. It comes undone. Voila, that's it, done. Okay, that's not the end of it, because sometimes they still leak. Because as I'll show you in a second, this pin might be stuck in. When they're in like so, okay, you've got an oil flow. When they're out like so, it turns the oil off. So it's good common practice when you've got it off to get your grips, give it a little twist and a pull. So once you've got that pulled out, okay, it should then stop the oil. But if it doesn't, I'll show you the reason why. And that is, forget this bit here now. This lump in my hand now is obviously the bit that goes in the tank. As I've just said, when the oil is turned on, it pushes the pin in and it creates the hole for the oil to come round here. When you release it, because it's sprung loaded, you can see there's a little O-ring there. That's what turns the oil off. Very occasionally, not that often, but very occasionally, that O-ring disappears, or it breaks, or it falls off. If that is the case, then that's the time where you have actually had it. You need to either drain the tank, or to be honest, if I've got that much oil there, or less, I undo it, and I bang one in with a bucket under it. Okay, but anything more, that's a bit of a grey area. It really is. So that is your overview there. Let's go a step further. I'll just get my spanner. Where have we put it, Mr. Butler? Here. Okay, so now we've got that off, clearly we can undo the filter bowl, okay? I'm not going to do that now because we know how to do a filter, but we're going to go a step further. If you ever get a problem with these, or your bowl's had it, or it's corroded, or there's any issues with it, you can change this part only, which is here. Okay, now people worry, they think that all tank's going to empty, but it's not. So what we're going to do is we're going to undo the side tube first. Okay, the next thing, I wouldn't undo it, all of it, I've just cracked it undone. I would then undo the filter bowl like so. And remember to put a bucket under here, but as you can see, we're dripping it onto sand on the floor, but yeah. Okay, so that is out the way. Wow, look at the state of that filter. Okay, so I'm going to move that out of the way. Now I've done that, the next thing I'm going to do is the pull to read valve, I'm going to pull it, like so. That empties whatever is in the side tube out. Okay, then I'm going to undo the side tube. I'm going to slide it up, and we're going to undo it. Like so. Once that's done, we can undo the main nut. This can be tight, so you might have to give them a bit more WD. Okay, this nut is directional. Okay, what I mean by that is it has to be the right way around. So this side is a thread, turn it over, and you can see you've got like a spacer and then the thread. It has to be that way round. If it's not that way round and you spin it around, so i.e. you do this up and this is still loose, because you got it the wrong way round. So make sure that that space there is over there. Okay, next thing. We slowly remove this. Bearing in mind there's a washer there and a washer there. So I'm going to remove it. Gloves on. I'll be honest, I didn't think any oil was going to come out of the tank, but clearly there was. Okay, so what we're then going to do, just so we can show people, when we're putting a new one on, the first thing we do is take this old seal off here. You have to be really, really careful that you don't knock that pin in. Knock it in, you get wet. Okay? Then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to get the new seal, again with dry hands, and we're going to put the new seal on. Again, if these get wet, it can cause you a problem, like so. Okay, there's the other seal there. I'm going to pop it out. Okay, this is the new one, as you can see. Now, these can go any direction. They can go that way, they can go that way. It doesn't matter. So just for fun, we're going to put it this way. When it goes onto the washer at the back, or the O-ring, you just give it a little, there you go, you heard it go. Okay, we then get this one, and we push it just level like so. That's it for a moment. Okay, I'm now going to get the nut and I'm going to put a tiny piece of copper grease on the thread. As I said earlier, the step part of the nut has to go this way. Okay, we're going to start doing it up. So as you can see, it's not seized now. Okay, when you get to where the just starts to touch it, don't do this up any tighter yet, because you will spread the O-ring out. What you do is you twist that at the same time, and as you can see, it pops in. There we go. Okay, before we line it up and do it up, we're going to do the side tube. So in this case, we're going to use a new one. 4-foot side tube. I advise that if you ever do have to do side tubes because they're dirty like this one, mine shown like this, make sure you change them because people get in trouble. If you don't need a side tube, or you complete one, you can get it in tube like so. Okay, really readily available. So I'm just going to plonk this in. We're going to remove the one, like so. Side tubes need to be the right length. If they're short, water can get down there, When you pull your pull to read, the water can get in there, and then it freezes, and then in the winter it doesn't work. Okay, so side tubes have to be the right length. So we're just going to spin that on there. Like so. You're going to get the spanner. And with these, not tight because they want a rubber O-ring, literally you don't need to PTFE these, just nip them like so. Once that's done, spin it around, push it down, done. Then you can line it up so it's nice and straight. Yeah, done. Simple as that. When it comes to the wheel that goes on the front, again, tiny piece of copper grease on the wheel, and you spin it on, like so. Work it in and out as you go. Work it in and out, okay? Because obviously that internal thread that it goes into could be corroded. So I just tend to work them on nice and slowly, like so. Okay? When you've got the wheel on, you nip it up so you feel it just go tight, back it off. Done. Simple as that. Okay, so something else we need to cover on the Tankmaster unit is that obviously what can happen sometimes is they can actually get blocked in here, so your side tube doesn't work. And there's a couple of reasons for that. Number one, I'll go back to this one here. Inside here, blocked. blocked up. So what you would do in that circumstance is you would leave the oil on, obviously your filter's on, you would clean that out there, you would put a bowl underneath it, you'd give it a little pull, and then it just bubbles out, give it a clean, job done. Okay, if it still doesn't work, then the next step is your pull to read valve, which is just there. Now the pull to read valves here look like this. They're just a couple of O-rings, and then that screws in, and then you've got your, just there, your spring there, so it pulls out like so. And as we all know, these can get seized. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to change the one that's on the top. Even though there's nothing wrong with it, we're going to pretend there's something wrong with it, and we're going to undo it. Now, before you totally undo it, turn the oil off again. Remember, right turns it off. When it's loose, then you know it's okay. When it's done, you pull the pin out to make sure it's okay. If it's got the little C clip, it looks like that. If it's got that on there, that's good news. So it's quite really good. But when you've got that loose on there like so, and the C-clip's on there, you can just pull the whole wheel, give it a little tug, then you know the oil's off. Once the oil's off, we're then going to undo this. Got to put a pot under it because you're going to get a little dribble. Obviously we're not, because we've literally just done it. Like so. Okay, so as you can see, there's got a tiny bit of grease on there, okay? If you haven't got grease, and we don't think grease is the best to be honest, and you'll put a new one in like so, we would use Vaseline. Yes, Vaseline, used for lots of stuff. We'd use Vaseline. We'd put a tiny little smear on there, we'd make sure that was clean in there, and then we would put it in again like so. So you push that in there, you do it up. Now a good tip here is do it up a few turns, make sure it works, do it up a few turns, make sure it works, and then when you go to do it up, nip. It should work like that, okay? If it's really stiff still, then you've got corrosion inside that body. You're not going to get it to work properly. You need to change the actual assembly. It's as simple as that. Let's have a bit of an overview. If you can get this out, obviously it checks your level absolutely fine. Make sure it's clear inside there. We know about filters, and I've told you how to remove the wheel. As I've said, spanner, pop it off, undo it, lube it up, pull your pin out, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so that is the overview of that Tankmaster, and I hope you've really found it useful. Okay, we're going to leave that like that. Right, finally we have the Royale Unit. The Royale Unit, well, I don't know who on earth designed the Royale Unit, because it's not the best thing in the world. So there's two ways to isolate the oil on this. Number one, you do up this little tiny thing here, that when they're old, they shatter and fall off. Okay, that's your first thing. The second place you can do it is just there. It's a screwdriver slot, okay? I would never ever touch one of them, because if you do, it's gonna leak. So if that's seized up and you're really desperate when you're gonna have to turn that, be prepared to get wet, because that's what normally happens. I've got away with it a few times, but not that often, to be honest with you. Okay, so the thing about the Royale Unit, it's slightly different, and there is other sight tubes around like it as well. You've got what they call the push to read. So you push, it clicks in, it then allows the fuel to go through. Okay, and obviously work out how much oil you've got in your sight tube. The downside of these is they block terribly. Okay, they're an absolute pain when they block. Okay, so you can just pull the knob off. You can just see here that behind here we get leaks and stuff behind there on as well. If they're blocked, then the best way to do is to undo this here, pull your sight tube off. You can try and push something down there when you've got your tube in and it might get going. But to be honest, it doesn't normally work. And like this one, it's sort of getting stuck in anyway. You can get push to reads, just like so, if you want to. You unscrew that out of there, like so. You put that one in instead, screw it in. Okay, that's how you change them, as simple as that. Now, believe it or not, this has got a filter on it as well, but the filter is very good. But we're going to show you. Basically, it's just here, and it's a tiny, if it's got one in it, because quite often they're missing, it's a tiny little gauze. Oh, it's still got it. There it is. That is it. That is your filter on that unit. Not the best. And the best thing about these is they get a bit of water in them because the sight tube at the top is too short. it runs down the side tube, someone pushes the push to read, it goes straight into where this is, it corrodes, and then it's cold, then it freezes and stops your oil flow. Really common. If you ever see one of these in the winter time and you've got lack of fuel to the house, put a kettle of water on it. Once you put 2 on there, it normally lets the fuel come out again. Okay? It is as simple as that. So that is a Royale unit. That's about all I've got to tell you really about filters, okay? Because I've probably bored you by now, because it is a bit of a boring subject, but there we go. Okay, so I really, really do hope it's helped you. So that is it. That is this week's YouTube vlog, done from Buttonall Burner Services, and I hope you enjoyed it as always. Sorry that's a bit of a boring one, but unfortunately filters are. But as I said earlier, we've been asked so many times about filters, especially the Tankmaster, that I thought the best thing I can do is do something about it and do a vlog on them. Okay, one thing I didn't say though, however, is if you're doing inline filters and stuff like that and you're fitting them, please remember to put isolation valves before them, okay, because it's an absolute nightmare if you don't. You'll only regret it, because when you go back to service it the next year, especially if it's something like a 489 filter or something like that where you have to put the seals in, you'll do the filter, you will then run back to the oil tank, you'll turn the tank on, and then you'll get back to the house and realise that the filter's leaking, and then you'll run back to the oil tank and turn it off. Repeat, do your editing. Okay, you need to make sure you're putting them isolation valves in front of them filters. So anyway, that is it. Please feel free to comment as always. We love to all comment, and very clearly, if you haven't subscribed, then please subscribe. We would love it. Thank you very much. I'm afraid I'm not around next week. I'm actually going away next week. So there probably won't be a vlog, I'm afraid, next Friday. Unless my boys, Ryan, say hello.
Hello.
Okay,
Hello.
Unless he decides to do one, or my other son, Benjamin. But we'll see how we get on. So yeah, if we don't, then obviously we will see you in a couple of weeks' time. So have a great weekend. Have a great week at work, and obviously next weekend. And I look forward to seeing you very soon. So until next time, stay safe.